I'm so excited to have this podcast today with Gretel Khan. So, she is one of our students and graduates at the Center for Healing. She's an integrative somatic therapist and coach for mothers reconnecting and rebuilding after separation and divorce. And she helps them to confidently and unapologetically step into the courage to rebuild a life they are obsessed with rather than one that they are just getting by in. She's in Albury, New South Wales. She's a solo mum of two teens, a passionate hiker, gardener, and open water swimmer who loves both adventures and staying home in her PJs and woolly slippers. Loves both great coffee and herbal tea, deep conversations and silly banter, eating copious quantities of dark chocolate or a gorgeous organic salad, as well as lying in her hammock on the back of her veranda, enjoying a delicious bubbly every now and then. So she loves, so Gretel, share about, a bit more about you, the work that you do with mum. So yourself being a solo mum, but being somatically trained as a therapist and coach. Tell us a little bit more.
Sure. Well, I started life as a coach very soon after my separation, which was 14 years ago. And
Oh,
it
wow. I didn't
was involved.
realize it was that long ago since you've been
Yeah,
coaching.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I've been single mumming for a while now. But I left an abusive relationship. So, naturally there was a lot going on there. And I've always wanted to help people in some way, start my own business in some way. And after separation, I moved to the country because I was drowning in Sydney with all the expenses and the kids being at school and just trying to keep on top of everything was horrendous. And so I moved to live with mum and dad rent free and just, get my ducks back in a row again as much as I possibly could. So, I was able to start a business. But yeah, I started with coaching because I really wanted to help women. I've always been really passionate about motherhood and families and relationships and family relationships. And I wanted to help mothers who had been in or sort of are in or looking to leave or have left an abusive relationship just to be able to support women with what I'm going through. And that's the thing I've always been sort of, you know, often I've just been through the thing that I'm helping people with.
And that's how it works. That's how it works. That's where I mean, at the Center for Healing, we're all about lived experience. And I think
Yeah.
when you go through something and you get the gold from it and you have this deep empathy that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. That is your niche. What you've been through and what you've got on the other side of is your niche. And I think it's
Yes.
amazing what you do because, even for me, it's hard for me. I've had friends that have been in DV and I've clients, and I find it a little bit hard to hold space for some reason because it was more so me watching my mum go through it. And I had that like savior mentality rather than the empathy of like actually being in that with children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that some people listening would love to know like a little bit about your story, if you wouldn't mind sharing about your situation that you went through and were able to get on the other side of and be able to thrive on the other side of that, like you are.
Yeah, sure, sure. And I think, even though I started in coaching, the somatic work and now the body oriented work that I now do with myself and my clients has been life changing because, my experience was very much something that was happening in my body. I realized, but I was very numb to it because as you know, that's what happens. There's so much that your body's responding to. It just gets to a point where it just can't anymore. It just can't hold anymore. It can't deal with anymore. And so I was trying to work everything out in my head and wasn't able to connect, but somehow, on my journey, I discovered that that's where I needed to go. That actually, it was very fear-based because, I was in a marriage that was really tough. Like it was, it's actually hard remembering back now because I'm I'm beyond it. But it's, it was more emotionally abusive than physically abusive, but there
Mm.
was some physical abuse too. And yeah, somehow, I thought that, having children would fix it, which is interesting. Like,
Oh, I think
um,
that's really
and
common. Yeah.
yeah, and that somehow, yeah, everything would be okay. But I saw my role back then as being, um, a wife that needed to support her husband who was troubled. That was my whole thought process and role, and I didn't even come into it. My needs didn't even come into it.
Mm.
I just didn't have any concept of self or self-esteem or anything like that, and so navigating that was really hard because it was scary a lot of the time, like the stuff that he would threaten me with. And yeah, it was terrifying. And yeah, I'd cry myself to sleep. It was just, yeah, I could on some level realize that, this was not okay. And more, there was this little voice inside me that was sort of saying, hey, you're going to have to leave. You're going to have to get out. You're going to have to, there's something else for you. I don't know. I don't know what it was actually, but it was something that it was kind of like, what? And I could hardly hear it back then, but it kind of got louder and louder. And then, I think what really helped me to hear it was finally hearing my little barely 4-year old daughter after a particularly scary episode saying, hey, mum, and her voice is shaking, you know, don't say that to dad because it's going to make him angry. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not okay. That's not okay. That's not okay for my little daughter to think that it's, yeah, that I've somehow got to not say how I feel in the relationship that I'm
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
um, for fear of him getting angry. So I've got, yeah, it's just, and I just thought, okay, this is not healthy for her to see her mother to be being spoken to and treated like this. And
Mm.
so I need to leave. Yeah. And I'm leaving for me too. Like it all sort of came in this
Wow.
realization. I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but somehow I've got to get out of here. And I think one day it was particularly scary, and he chucked a chair across the room. I had a 3.5-month-old baby as well, little son.
Um,
He's now a big teenager, but the chair that he threw across the room just barely missed my son's head, and I was like, "Whoa, okay." And so I put him in his cot, my daughter to go to her room, made everything okay. And when he left for work, something just clicked inside me, and I ran around, packed everything up, as much stuff as I could fit in the
wow.
car, food, kids, stuff, I don't know, and just drove away and drove away. And I was kind of shaking, but it's kind of also this sense of, okay, of relief, like, okay.
Mm.
And I was in pure survival mode. It was just like, okay, so I just need a place we can go and feel safe and be okay. And so I drove to my grandmother's place, a good few suburbs away, and we stayed there for a while. And yeah, that was kind of the start of the process, which was even at the beginning, um, me saying, oh gosh, maybe I should go back. What have I done?
Yeah, that's really
Because
I think it's really common. I think the average they say is some women go back 7 times.
yeah.
How did you like with that mindset in that moment decide like did you ever go back or how did you decide not to go back? Because I think, I know as a trauma therapist with the trauma bonding, we can often remember the good things, or we are in survival mode. So we're going back to what we know, or because of financial reasons.
Yeah.
How was that process for you?
I was really lucky that I had a friend, like long time friend, who was literally my angel. Like I don't know, someone sent her somehow. I don't know, but she was that person sitting on my just beside me, saying, "Hey, I know you want to go back, but and she knew him and me, and she could sense something was wrong, but didn't know what to do. But when this happened, she was like, "Okay, I know you want to go back, but I don't know, but I think you've left for a reason. So maybe
Mm.
just pause for a while. Even if you go back later, that's okay. and just wait, just pause for a while. I'm here. Like, you could come to my place for a while, and just make sure it's the right thing. She was sort of talking to me like that, and I kind of went, oh, okay. And she kept saying that, and I think I just sort of clung to that because of the relationship that I had with her, and that I could feel that sense of, I'm not forcing you to do anything, and I'm not telling you, you've got to leave, you've got to stay, like, or anything like that. It was like, she's like, whatever you do, I'm just here.
I think
And
that's so beautiful. And I think a lot of people
yeah,
don't know what to say to someone in that situation or the way to say it. So
yes,
rewind, re-listen to this bit because like it really, that compassion, but also with that, think about it, like that awareness and coupled with support, whether it's from you or helping them get support. If you're listening and
yeah,
you're trying to support someone, someone close to you, that's incredible information to have. So thank you, and to your angel
yeah.
friend. And sorry, I did interrupt, so you can continue.
Oh no, that's completely okay. And I also wanted to say that I did have a psychologist that I was seeing at the time, because I wanted to know what I could do to help him more, which is
Wow,
fascinating
it
looking
was
back now.
still, yeah.
Anyway, but the psychologist, I think, could recognize what was going on, but she didn't. She was also starting to, had years of psychology. She was just beautiful, held a really beautiful therapeutic space where I felt really safe. And she was also actually starting to lean into some more body oriented work that she does now. She does
Yeah.
somatic work now, which is incredible. But so at that time, she was starting to lean into it more. And um, she also said, you know what, whether you leave or you stay, I'm just here and I'm going to support you. It's okay either
Wow.
way. And I think that was one of the most powerful things that that someone has said. So that, and my friend sort of giving me that message that they're going to
Mhm.
be there anyway. Like, I'm just there for you. And it was actually quite empowering, and it made me start to sow that seed that maybe, okay, maybe I could leave. Maybe I could make that choice. And
Yes.
that was really, really quite powerful. And that's one of the things that I offer all of the people that I work with now. It's that I'm here. I'm that lady with the lamp, holding the lamp, and we're going to walk together and explore together.
Amazing.
And I've got you. I'm here with you. We can
Hmm.
just sit here. And there's nothing that you have to do or have to say, or you don't have to leave. You don't have to, let's just be together. I'm right here with you. It's just a really powerful thing. And I think it's where you can start to, I don't know, really start to come back to yourself when you're so disconnected from yourself. It's just that first seed that's sown that there's another person who is
I
going to
think
be there.
that's yeah, that's so important because even chatting to someone recently and they were saying it's been very conflicting for them because even though that person was abusive, at the same time they were their only sense of safety and support. So
Yeah.
it's very conflicting. So if you can get that support with someone like Gretel and use all the services, be open to receive, particularly if you have kids, like find as much support as you can for them, if not you,
Yeah.
until you build that sense of safety externally from that person in that situation. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's really in the early stages, um, it's about finding and starting to develop those external resources and internal resources. But yeah, I think it starts with the external resources, because you need that to feel physically safe,
Because usually
and
by then you've lost yourself a lot, haven't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think another thing that I remember from that time, is my friend with that attitude of, you know what, I'm just here. Like, whatever you do, I'm here. But hey, let's pause on that for a while. Do you want me to come over? And you know what, I'm just going to come over and just make a cup of tea. That's it.
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
I'll just be here. So she made a cup of tea and she gave me a hug and she held my hand, and that was everything. That was
Wow.
literally everything. She's like, you know what? I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. But this is why, like, I reiterate that lived experience is so beautiful. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, because you've been in the trenches and you also know the significance and the best way that you were supported. It's not from a textbook, it's not something that you can learn in a course, like the things that you know and how to hold space for someone. That's really beautiful. And could we shift a little bit to um, I know that domestic violence is getting more recognized in Australia in the court system, and I imagine 14 years ago it wasn't. Um, was there anything that you had to go through in terms of that and potentially co-parenting, anything that you can share around that aspect of
oh yes.
it?
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that was a bit of a journey too, and yes, definitely not supported in any kind of human way, if that makes sense, with
Mm.
by the system that exists, which is very, the court system is very adversarial, and I was in court for 6 years actually, which was horrendous. It's incredibly expensive and yeah, almost broke me financially and emotionally. And I think, having a legal representative who could actually help me navigate it was really crucial, and someone who felt good. And again, I'm so lucky with the resources that I had. I had this lawyer who really understood the system and was quite but also able to sort of go, oh wow, that's really hard, isn't it? Okay,
Yeah, like
you
a
know
bit of
what? It's
empathy
really
in
hard.
there.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it's really hard, isn't it? Okay, and I know, finances are tricky right now, so I'm going to give you some options. So you can do
Wow.
this, this, or this.
Mm.
You let me know what you'd like to do. Okay, because there's, what's going to work here, or and that was really helpful. But luckily, with her advice, I managed to get a financial arrangement, a financial consent order done first, and where I was able to get the property that we were living in my own name.
Wow.
And well, I had that's another whole story. I was able to, but I had to prove that I could. So from
Okay.
zero income, I had to go from zero income to having enough income to show that I could take over the mortgage
Hmm.
of a property. But I just, there was again something inside me, I don't know how, that just went, you know what, I have to do this. I need this for my kids. I need
Yeah.
something. I need an asset. Yeah. And so I did somehow, I don't know how, in 6 months got my shit together and managed to get the income that I needed to
That's
to
amazing.
to get this thing
Wow.
in my name. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know even how I did that, but
No,
yeah,
it's
I think I just got
important. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So that was a huge journey to be able to do that, and I think I got completely off track from
No,
from
it's
the
no, it's
where we
super
were.
important because with the finances, this is why people are trapped because they think they just, with the whatever's in their bank account, they think, well, I can't leave because how am I going to look after my kids? Or if I
Yeah,
do leave, how am I going to give them a future and not be in poverty? And so
yeah,
in their brain, they're like, there's more pros of staying, unfortunately. But your story
yeah,
is so inspiring because you made it work, you did it, and you go,
yes.
you set your mind to it and you go, I'm somehow just going to make it work. And you did. So
I know. I don't
it's
know
very
how. Like,
important.
when I think back now, I'm just like, wow. Yeah, because I remember talking to a mortgage broker to say, yeah, I really want to have this opportunity to take over the mortgage. I really want to do it. And he looked at all my my finances and just went, yeah, look, we really just can't do it. This is not enough income. And I'm like, here's me with a 3.5 month old baby and a 4 year old, having done a bit of part time work here and there, spinning on my pregnant belly in a photographic studio taking photos, because I used to be a portrait photographer, which is something that I sadly had to let go of in separation, to sell all my beautiful lenses because I needed to pay bills.
Mhm.
But um, it was beautiful working with children and families, and I that was another thing that I realized. I thought I really love this, so maybe I can continue with that now that I'm separated. That was another thought, but yeah, I think yeah. Then I just thought, okay, how can I do this? What do I need to get? And I was just asking him, what do I need? Like, what's the bar here? Like, tell
Yeah,
me.
you're like, how do I
And
make this work?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he said, wow, okay, yeah. And he gave me a figure, and I kind of went, okay, all right, I'll come back to you. And he went,
Wow.
okay, bye. Not expected to hear from me. And I just went, okay, I have to do this. Like, I really need to do this. So I ended up doing, bits of work here and there. I got about three different jobs. One I did at night, and I put the baby to bed. Then I would do like typing at night
Wow.
time
Yep.
and earn bits of money. I was super lucky. The things that I fell into and I was able to pull together. I was able to get some income support from the government. Everyone complains about how little it is. It is peanuts. Absolutely no one can survive on it. However, I was so grateful to have that amount come in
Yeah.
to support me too. And I'm like, and so it was part of me learning to expand my view. Okay, so the income here is not just going to come from this job and this work and this sort of time for money thing. It's like, okay, so all right, I can get some support from here. That's going to be ongoing. Okay, cool. And so that was kind of the money that came
Nice.
in. And with all of those little pieces, I was able to put it together. And I
Yeah.
think it was just looking at one thing at a time,
Yeah.
and piecing it together. And then I went back to him, I think almost like 2 days before I had to get back to the court and say, okay, look at everything. Can we do it? And he was like, yeah, I think we can. Oh my
Oh
God.
my, he
Okay.
was not
And I was
expecting
like,
you. You're like, I am the person that will make it work. And here I am. And he's just like, wow, okay.
hey, I can't, hang on, let me just check. I just want to check the figures. I'll come back to you. Okay. And he calls me back and goes,
Wow.
yeah, we can do it. Okay, here's all the paperwork, sign this, do that, put this here, do blah, blah, and and we just got it all together and sent it over, and then I had it all signed and sealed from the court. And it was like, yes, I don't
Wow.
know how I'm going to keep going because it wasn't sustainable what I'd set up. It was just something to get over the line, because I really wanted to have that asset, and that's not. I know that that's not always possible and everyone's situation's different, and sometimes you have to let things go, and that's also a possibility. But
Yeah.
um in my particular situation, I don't know, I just decided that I needed this, and I just and I made
Well,
that
it's
decision.
that again,
It's part
like
of being
the
empowered.
safety and the
Yeah,
stability, and that was just your North Star. And
yeah,
you're just like, how do I
yeah,
do this for me and the kids? And
yes,
you didn't fall back in the trap, which is like so admirable. Um,
yeah.
and then in terms of co-parenting or like communication with him later, like as you were doing all of this, what did that look like?
There were about 5 years where we didn't have contact at all, and he didn't have contact with the kids because he was just in a really, really dark place
Was
himself.
there an order
And
against him, or was it self-imposed kind of he didn't reach out?
um, a bit of both, to be honest. It was very much about the court at first, like, until we can get something in place, there's there's the hand. You're not allowed to have any contact.
Yes.
Because we did try contact, but it led to a couple of AVOs and things like that, and he was violent. So um, yeah, it sort of led to me making that decision and it's part of the reason why we went through the court as well. I mean, I
Yeah.
perhaps could have gotten out of it earlier, but it kind of helped to be there because it helped get that distance from him that I needed. And perhaps in some way it helped him as well to get that distance from me because, as you know, and I guess with the awareness that I have now, it's a dynamic between two people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's a dynamic that he needed distance from too. We needed to have distance from each other. And so the court provided that, even though, it was a super stressful, horrendous time. And hard for the kids too. Like,
Oh,
looking back,
absolutely. Yeah.
just like, you know, yeah, you keep getting told that you have to, you have to be there for your kids and you have to be a good mom and you have to, all this
So
kind of thing. And I'm
much.
like, I can't even be here for myself right
Yeah.
now, let alone be there with the two young children who really need me. And that was really quite hard too. I just, yeah, I did the best that I could, but yeah, there were times when I really struggled and I didn't do a good job and I said things that I shouldn't. And, it's, yeah, I look back now and go, wow, okay.
Well,
Um,
being in the space that you're in, I think, when you start your healing journey, or I think you have those realizations later. Like at the time, you just don't have the
yeah,
capacity to even, you might even know, and you still don't have the capacity because it's like you're
yes,
literally just burnt to the ground. So, but
yes,
for people to know that there's neuroplasticity and those bonds with your children and even their healing can occur at any time later in life, like,
yes,
I think that's an
yes,
important piece for people to know that you haven't, what you put them through to try and get them to safety was not in vain. And even if you did things as well or they saw things, it's never too late for them to heal.
yes. And I've witnessed that happening with my now teenage children now, which is incredibly powerful to witness. It's like, thank goodness. It's almost like it's taken time, but it's almost like the work that I've done on myself to understand what's driving a lot of the way I am in relationship as well, and how I don't know how I ended up in this situation, I suppose,
But
understanding
that's
that.
how they start healing, is that you
Yeah.
you started healing and then naturally
Yes.
they are going to be in that space with you. And because you've
Yes.
embodied those healings and you're somatically and on a nervous system level a safer
Yes.
space, they will then come to you and start to unwind, and those
Yes.
stresses will start to release for them as well, even from infancy.
Yes. Yes. And because I'm able to relate to them in a different way now
Yeah.
and hold them and apologize.
Oh, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. I know there's a lot of say children, like adults. We have our inner children that even our
Yes.
boomer parents, would never apologize and get defensive. But it's, people like mothers like you that are on the healing journey that are willing to that.
Yeah.
My mum did apologize to me and my siblings, I think last year or the year before, and it said just this positive ripple effect through our whole family, like just those simple words, and she really meant it. And yeah, I'm
Yes.
just tearing up because it's
Yeah.
I think naturally people will be like, oh, you had a roof over your head and blah blah blah, and get all defensive and protective of themselves rather than, yeah, coming from that conscious parenting space of I'm so sorry that you felt like that, and willing to have that
Yeah.
relationship, that relational trauma, to be able to start having that relational healing
Yes.
later.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I've had those conversations with my kids where it's like, oh, wow, that must have been really tough for you. What was that like for you?
Wow.
Without any like, oh my God, I know. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't able to hold you in the way you needed back then. I'm really sorry. And I think it's important to be able to do that because relationships are about rupture and repair and
Mm,
rupture and repair. Healthy relationships are about that. There's always going to be ruptures. It's not like everything's perfect all the time. And
yeah.
but it's being able to do that repair that's the key, and to acknowledge the stuff that happened and your role in it, and to be able to be with that stuff that's inside you.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. And just a
I
side
think,
note with that for me, because I've got a toddler, um,
yeah,
I really try to make sure that if I apologize and or if something, happens, I make sure that he knows that it's not because of him or that there's anything wrong with him. Like,
yes,
that he wasn't the cause and it's not anything reflecting on who he is as a person or his value or his worth.
yes, yes, yes. And you can have those conversations with your kids, whatever age or stage they are.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's with your presence and your just acknowledgement of your own part in it. Like
Yeah.
it's, you know, and it takes sort of, I guess, noticing what's coming up inside you first to go. I think like it's quite
That's the
hard
ultimate
to.
prevention to not get into into an abusive relationship or get into
Yes.
a healthy relationship is firstly, yeah,
Yeah.
being connected with our body, being connected with our emotions, our intuition, trusting that, because then we would have seen red flags early on.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
and then we can and then even if it was too late for us and we went through that and maybe our children went through it, us then relating where we can speak our truth, where it is safe to do that rupture and repair, and the
Yeah.
conflict isn't scary or abusive, then
Yeah.
we're already breaking that cycle where they can be connected with their body. They are willing to have hard conversations and they're more
Yeah.
likely to get into healthier relationships so they won't ignore the red flags. And you yourself, by going through this, you've just broken that for all the rest of the generations to come after you. So it's hard
Yes.
work. You've done the hard work, but it's
Yes.
the ripple effect will be ongoing.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yes, I'm very passionate about that, you know, that epigenetics, you know, the intergenerational trauma and how epigenetics works within that. It's just
Yes.
absolutely fascinating. I've experienced it in my own family, and particularly with my own parents recently as well, which is
Yeah.
very interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's such an ongoing thing. And something I wanted to mention earlier, just about how you mentioned it starts with us and how we're sitting in our bodies and the interoception, which means like how we're feeling and
Yeah.
noticing how we're feeling internally. Um, to any of my friends or clients that get pregnant, I'm like straight away, I'm like, you can start talking to your baby now.
Yeah.
And when you go through something emotionally, which you will because of hormones, aside from if they're in an abusive relationship or not,
Yeah.
you can tell the baby, this isn't yours, this is mine, or this isn't about you, this situation that's going on here, because they're already
Yeah.
conscious and aware. They're already scanning what's going on in their environment, even through your belly and even how
Yeah.
you're feeling. So you're allowed to feel how you're feeling, but just in that conversation internally,
Yes.
with the baby. Yeah. So it can start as early as that. A bit of sidetracked, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss that
I think
point when
that,
you brought that up
yeah,
in terms
I
of,
think that's powerful.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because yeah, I know that you know, from neuroscience science studies that have come out in recent years. Well, it's a pretty recent sort of field, but you know, that a baby 3 months in utero, its nervous system will start to get in sync with its mother's.
Mm.
And so if the mother is chronically anxious, you know, I mean, bit of anxiety here and there is like, hey, gosh, you're human, you know, we
Yes,
have
it's
the full
normal.
range going on all the time as we
Yes.
respond to the world. But, you know, a mother who is stuck in chronic levels of, you know, stress and anxiety, you know, can impact the baby in that there's higher levels of cortisol in their bloodstream when they're born. And, um, you know, so the baby comes out with a nervous system that's wired for a world that is unsafe because that's what it's picked up from its mum. So that's also a thing. And I'm very aware of that, in that I had both of my children whilst being in high states of stress in an abusive relationship. So, you know, that will have affected them as well. And
Mm.
so, yeah, so recognizing that now, and relate in the way that I relate to them now, even as teenagers, you know, those things, that just recognizing, you know, what they may have picked up when they're in the womb too, and just even knowing that. And it just changes the way I relate with them and what comes up for them sometimes. And it is
Yeah.
about that sense of safety, and being able to provide that more and more through the work that you do on yourself.
Absolutely. And if they want to roll up like an infant, even if they're taller than you and have a cuddle, like,
Yes.
that means that they're like you, and if you can hold them in that space, they're already healing their infant in that situation, and that's beautiful.
Yes. Yes, yes. My teenage son comes in for a hug all the time now. His
Oh,
hugs are beautiful. But yeah, it's just, yeah, when he's really, one of the things he used to struggle with was expressing his anger and frustration when he was younger. And it's something that I suppressed because I couldn't deal with it when I was
mm,
um, you know, going through what I was going through. I couldn't hold him in the way that I needed to for him to feel safe. And so, that came out sort of later. And then it's something that I noticed as I started to, build my own capacity to be able to hold the things coming up for me and then to have space to hold them too. That he used to sort of hide. It was a shame thing. Like every time he felt angry, he'd be hide his face and go hide in his room and, get all small or he'd, do something like empty all the shampoo bottles in the bathroom or something, or
it's like
empty
the
all
he
my,
got stuck in the
some kind of
4-year-old
thing.
self. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Or
Um,
he'd do some sort of sabotage, open all the kitchen cupboards and tablets and take everything out and then disappear and hide. And yeah, and
yeah.
so just being with him in those moments and helping him to move through that just by being there,
Yeah. Like you're
rather
allowed to
than
be
go, what have
angry,
you done?
sweetie.
That's not fair.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's
Yeah.
really important point because some people are still of the mindset of punishing bad behavior. And I
Yes.
really believe that it's not a bad behavior. There's emotion that they can't handle and they don't know how to express it in a way to get what they need.
Yes.
And so just
Yes. We don't
ask,
do
like, how
punishment.
are you actually
Yeah.
feeling, sweetie? Like, what's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
No, I don't know why you did that. Do you know why you did that? And then if they can feel the emotion, okay, let's breathe through it. Like, let's express it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Especially for men, you're breaking the cycle of, perhaps what he saw with his father and the way to be a man, for his
Yeah.
possible future partner.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, we don't do punishment in our house at all.
Yes.
And, it's not about being passive about all their behaviors at all. Not at all. It's about being firm sometimes. And it's about going, hang on, hang on. No, 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 no. Let's stop. Let's pause. What's
Yes.
going on here for you? This
Yeah.
is, yeah, because I'm feeling really shocked. Or, here's how I'm feeling, but I want to know how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk. And and you've got to find your own language and your own way of relating to your kid because honestly, I can't tell you exactly what to say or how to say it, or, like it's more just about acknowledging that the behavior is coming from something unresolved in them that is
Yeah.
freaking out, some little part of them that is just doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And the only way they know how to handle this situation is to behave badly.
Yeah.
Um, and that's reinforced over and over and over. And it becomes I am bad eventually at some
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
But yeah, just having those conversations and, yeah, hitting pause, going, oh, okay,
And
right.
and this is for any age, guys. So Gretel's talking about teenagers, which when my son's teenager, I'll be reaching out to you, Gretel, because you'll have all the experience. Um, but I did want to just touch on for people that have young children that are maybe in domestic violence or they've just like left and they're, um, thinking about the future and worried about their children or their dad's involvement with their kids. Because there is this guilt of like, well, kids should have their dad involved, and there's statistics around, if the dad's
Yeah.
not involved. Could you just share a little light on what is comfortable for you, on what that looks like for if there is any co-parenting, if he does have any presence in his children's life, and what that kind of looks like, and how you've navigated that, and any pros and cons?
It's been a huge, huge journey, I have to say. And, there was a point in our court process where I was offered being able to say no contact, like until they're 18. Like it was pretty horrendous what was happening. Um, but there was something inside me that just went, you know what? I need to protect these two, but I want to give them the opportunity to have a relationship with their dad.
Mm.
And that sort of developed into me realizing that, okay, it's not anymore about my relationship with him, because if I didn't have children, I wouldn't have anything more to do with him. It would be like, walk away, that's it. I'm getting
Yeah.
on with my life now. But once you have children with someone, it changes things a little bit. And while I acknowledge that, yes, there are times that you need to say no contact, absolutely, there's situations like that. But for me, it was possible to just allow, I think we had supervised contact initially. And, eventually he had contact via Skype. So they'd have conversations little by little. And I was sort of supporting the kids in their relationship with him during that. And then, yeah, it's been a journey, I have to say, for me and for them. And I think one of the most important things was me not ranting about how I felt about him.
I
And
was going to ask that next, because I think that's really
yeah,
important, because your children, a whole 50% of them is their father and and part of their
yeah,
psyche. And if we're bad mouthing them constantly, they think it was a reflection of them and who they are as well.
yes, yes. So yeah, it's been, honestly, it's been an interesting journey and interesting conversation that we've had as a family, like involving him as well, more and more. But particularly between me and the kids, and it's still going even now.
Okay.
Like they spend half of every school holidays with him right now, and there's been times where he's ranted a lot about me. And my daughter's told me about that, and I've just had this like come up in me, just like, who does he think he is? And in a real rage come up inside me. I'm like, oh wow, that's interesting. That's still there. And then wow, okay. And so working with that, but also just recognizing that that's coming up inside me, and that it's my role not to then pick up the phone and say, who do you think you are? And blah, blah, blah. You don't get to speak to the.
Yeah, because
And,
again, like, you're showing them how to handle the situation.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's like acknowledging it and calling it for what it is with them,
Yeah.
and then supporting them in their relationship. Like an example is a conversation that my son had with his dad, um, where his dad threatened him. I'm not going to go into the details, but his dad threatened him in some way. And, he was a bit like, I don't know if I want to talk to him anymore. And I'm like, you know what? You get to choose
That's
to
great.
not talk to him anymore. You get to choose to not go and visit him. You can choose.
And
I'll
that's
support
teaching
that.
him to make decisions out of how he feels internally, whether it feels right or not.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you're telling me that you encouraging me to not go?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just saying that you have a choice here, and whatever that choice is, I'll support you and I'll be here with you,
Mhm.
and I'll be here for you. Like while you're there, if things are tricky to handle, like this is when they're older, then I will pick you up. I'll come and get you. Like
Yeah.
I'm here.
Awesome. And
It's
again,
okay."
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like you can leave, you're that
and
safe
yeah,
person again, that you had that beautiful friend of, like, you can just leave and come back if you're feeling unsafe. Like, I'll support your
yes,
relationship, but pause and feel and see if you feel safe enough or not. And you don't have to go if you
yeah,
don't want to, and giving your kids that choice.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's
yes.
amazing. Yeah, that's
Yes, and
amazing.
yes, and then recently my daughter said, recently said, "Okay, I don't want to hear about this anymore," to him, and he went, "You need to hear it," and she was like, "No, I don't,"
Wow. You've done
and I'm like,
well. Yes, I love
"You're
this. Boundaries,
incredible."
speaking her truth.
Yeah, yes,
Love it.
yes,
Yeah.
and I really, and interestingly, like I really feel for him too, because he's hurting, and in doing that, he's expressing his own pain and I really feel for him. I'm not here to fix it anymore. I used to be.
Yeah.
but that's not for me to
They're not
do
a
or for his
project. You
children
can't
to do.
save them.
No,
Yes.
no, no, no. But I do have a lot of compassion for that too. I also feel incredibly angry sometimes at the things that happen. Absolutely. I'm human. When things happen that don't align with my values, I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, express that. And then, okay, what's the action that I need to take now?
Yeah.
From a place of of power. Actually, being able to work through layers of anger has been incredibly powerful for me. It's been a
Mm.
bit of a journey, but actually, I'd say one of the most healing things I've done. And using really embodied ways to do that and work with that survival energy
Mm.
has been literally life changing.
Yeah.
And
No.
it's ongoing, but to be able to be with that rage that comes up, and also the parts that want to hold it down, like no, 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 shh, can't be
That's the thing, like,
angry,
when you're in, and going back 14 years ago, when you were in that marriage and in that situation, and I'm pretty sure you're exhausted with postnatal, like, delirium and anxiety on top of being in a situation where you didn't feel safe, you would have
yeah,
suppressed a lot of rage and a lot of anger. And,
yes,
that just sits in our system, just
yes,
percolating. And I
yes,
want to
causes
kind
a
of like
lot of
loop.
anxiety.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly. And I want to loop back to as well, you know, explaining to your kids, like, when your dad's like that, it's a reflection of how he's feeling inside and he can't handle his
yes,
emotions. It's not about you. Don't take it to
yes,
heart.
yes, yes,
Giving your kids that
yes,
incredible awareness so early on. And it's not always about cotton balling our kids, because our kids do need to go through challenges. But if we can teach them, how to
yes,
process, how to be aware that other people can project, then you're making resilient kids. You haven't just cotton
yes,
them and hid them away. In
yes,
real life, people get angry. In real life, people can say mean things and do horrible things. And so you're teaching them that strength and that awareness. So I love that. Um,
yes,
is there
yes, and
anything like, sorry, go ahead.
like I'm so passionate about this stuff. Like, and I think that one really important point that I wanted to make was that in teaching them, it's not about teaching them to fight back and to punch and to, it's not about teaching them how to punch the bully. It's about teaching them about noticing what's happening in the dynamic, and for them to start to feel different within themselves, even if they I don't know. It's like even if they don't do anything, like they don't take any particular action, like it's just they're still in the situation. They get through it. They leave. Okay, and they don't necessarily say anything. Like it's if they can recognize that it's the other person's problem, like it's their dad's problem or their dad's the stuff that's coming up for him, and that it doesn't have something to do with them, then that's everything. I think that's really,
Yeah.
really
Of
really
course, like,
key.
we can take some responsibility sometimes. Like, it's like you said, it's a dynamic,
Yeah.
but making it's like it's not all about that there's something wrong with you and that they're right. I've always taught
Yes.
my son
Yeah.
that, like, adults are not always right. We don't always know. You have to always double check, and
Yeah.
we're not always correct. And I have instilled that in him from a young
Yeah.
age. Is there any other, I know that was like a major important point. Anything else before we wrap up today that you would like to share with the listeners?
No, I think that's all that I wanted to share really. But I think the key thing is, however broken you might be feeling, it's okay. And you can, move beyond all of this stuff. It's not the end. Like
Powerful.
it's yeah, and it's not the end for your kids either. Like you haven't damaged them. It's
Yeah.
almost like something that they can, as you can, learn to be with and process and move through and beyond with a strength that you never knew that you had, and with a strength that they never knew that they had either. Like it's something that you can really, I don't know, learn and get in touch with your personal power that is actually there all the time
Yeah.
when you go through experiences like this.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. That's so powerful. So, so powerful. And thank you so much for sharing all of that. I know that, it's quite vulnerable to share all of that. And I hope and, I can imagine it's going to help so many people by you sharing that. So thank you so much. So I just wanted to share that you have a Facebook community for single
Yeah.
mums called Mums Flying Solo. So it's
Yes.
facebook.com/mums, MUMS, for those of you that are in America. We spell it different over here. Mums Flying Solo. And we'll put the link in the show notes. And also, if you resonate with Gretel and you want some support, she does also offer a 6-month program where you can actually work with her one-on-one. So we'll put the link to book an initial free cuppa and a chat. It's just a free chat to see if it will be a supportive dynamic for you, if you resonate with her, and you can find out more about her program. And yeah, thank you so much again for coming on today. I'm so blessed that you are in our community. I know you've studied EP and RCT, but to have someone like you with your experience and your compassion and your passion as well, it's just incredible. So thank you for being a part of, the Center for Healing and for sharing so much
Yeah.
today.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for this conversation and being a part of the community too. What an incredible community. So lucky.
Thanks, Gretel. Thank you.